Lieutenant Yuna rubbed her tired eyes and took another sip of cold coffee. It was her third double shift this week, monitoring deep space frequencies from Europa Station. The ice moon's surface gleamed outside the observation deck, but Yuna barely noticed the view anymore. She'd been tracking routine satellite data and cosmic background noise for months without anything interesting happening. Then her console started beeping like crazy. "What the hell?" she muttered, adjusting her headset. The signal was unlike anything in their databases. It wasn't coming from Earth colonies or known human outposts. The transmission was weak, distorted by the vast distance it had traveled. But there was definitely a pattern buried in the static. Yuna's hands flew across her keyboard, running the signal through every translation program the station had. Her heart pounded as alien symbols began appearing on her screen, slowly converting into readable text. This wasn't a drill or some equipment malfunction. This was real first contact. The message made her blood run cold. The peaceful Cathari civilization was under attack by something called the Vorthok hegemony. Entire planets were being bombed from orbit. Millions of innocent beings were dying while their attackers moved from system to system like a plague of locusts. Commander Park Jin to the communications bay immediately. Yuna called over the intercom, her voice shaking slightly. She'd never made an emergency call like this before. Park Jin arrived within minutes, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "What's the situation, Lieutenant?" "Sir, we're receiving coordinates and tactical data," Yuna reported, pointing at her screen, where star charts were still downloading. "They're being systematically exterminated. The aliens. They're asking for help." Park Jin stared at the incoming data streams. Star maps showing burning worlds. Population counts dropping by the millions. Military analysis of an enemy that seemed unstoppable. After 30 years in the space service, he thought he'd seen everything. But this was humanity's first contact with alien life, and those aliens were begging for rescue. "Get me Admiral Lee on priority channel," Park Jin ordered, his military training kicking in. "And you, nah, good work. You just made history." Within hours, Admiral Lee Ho convened an emergency session of the Earth Defense Council via hologram from Luna Base. Representatives from every human colony and military command gathered virtually as the alien transmission played on repeat. The room fell silent as the desperate plea echoed through the speakers. The vote was quick and unanimous. Humanity had spent decades preparing for first contact, but nobody expected it to come with a cry for help. Still, the decision was clear as starlight. They would answer the call, even if it meant revealing themselves to a hostile galaxy. Captain Wu Jie stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching his crew make final preparations for humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. The massive battleship hummed with activity as engineers checked weapon systems and navigation officers plotted jump coordinates to a star system 47 light-years away. "Captain, all ships are reporting ready for departure," announced Lieutenant Commander Hanso from his tactical station. The young officer tried to hide his nervousness, but Wu Jie could see the tension in his shoulders. They all felt it. 12 human warships hung in formation around Europa, their hulls gleaming under Jupiter's reflected light. These weren't exploration vessels or peaceful diplomatic ships. They were instruments of war, built to protect Earth and her colonies. Now they were about to venture into unknown space to fight aliens they'd never seen before. "Sir, I have to ask," Hanso said quietly, double-checking his sensor readings. "Are we really doing this? We're flying blind into an interstellar war. We don't know anything about these Vorthok or what kind of weapons they have. Hell, we don't even know if our shields can stop their attacks." Wu Jie nodded thoughtfully. His friend had every right to be worried. Earth's military had spent decades preparing to defend human space, not launch rescue missions halfway across the galaxy. Their tactical manuals didn't cover scenarios like this. They had no intelligence reports, no reconnaissance data, no backup plans. You're absolutely right, Wu Jie admitted, placing a hand on Han So's shoulder. We have no idea what we're walking into. These aliens could have technology that makes our best weapons look like sticks and stones. They might have ships twice our size with shields we can't penetrate. The bridge fell quiet as the crew listened to their captain's honest assessment. Everyone knew the risks, but hearing them spoken aloud made the danger feel more real. But you know what? Wu Jie continued, his voice growing stronger. Then we do what humans do best. We adapt. We improvise. We find a way to win even when the odds are stacked against us. He looked around at his crew, seeing determination replacing doubt in their eyes. Those Cathari called for help, and we answered. That's who we are as a species. We don't abandon people who need us, even if those people happen to be aliens we've never met. The fleet jumped to FTL Drive, 12 human warships, disappearing into hyperspace. They carried humanity's first message to the galaxy. No one fights alone. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zelani system, and Captain Wu Jie immediately knew they were too late to prevent a massacre. 3 beautiful worlds hung in space like wounded gems, their surfaces glowing with the orange light of countless fires. Massive alien ships, dark and angular like predatory insects, circled the planets while raining destruction down on cities and settlements. My God, whispered Han So from his station, staring at the tactical display. Look at the size of those things. The Vorthok dreadnoughts were enormous, easily twice the length of human battleships. Their black hulls bristled with weapon batteries that pulsed with deadly energy. Smaller attack craft swarmed around the capital ships like angry wasps, diving toward the planet's surfaces to strafe anything that moved. Captain, I'm detecting massive civilian casualties, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Yunki, his voice tight with anger. They're targeting hospitals, schools, residential areas. This isn't a military operation. It's genocide. Wu Jie felt his jaw clench. He'd seen combat before, but never anything this brutal and systematic. These weren't soldiers fighting soldiers. This was pure evil unleashed on innocent people. Open a channel to the Vorthok fleet, he ordered. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. Vorthok vessels. This is Captain Wu Jie of the United Earthship Indomitable. Cease your attack on civilian populations immediately and withdraw from this system. The response came faster than anyone expected. Energy beams lanced across space, striking the human formation's lead destroyer. The ship's shields flared and buckled under the assault. Another primitive species for harvesting, came the translated alien reply, cold and dismissive. Surrender your vessels, or be destroyed. Sir, they're targeting our ships, Han So shouted. All Vorthok vessels are turning toward us. But Lieutenant? Yuna was already working frantically at her communications console. Captain, I'm receiving signals from the planet's surface. The Cathari are still alive down there, and they're sending us tactical data about Vorthok shield frequencies and weapon patterns. Commander Dumin, the fleet's tactical coordinator, studied the incoming information with growing excitement. Captain, these aliens fight like they expect everyone to just roll over and die. Their formations are designed for bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat. They've never faced opponents who fight back. Wu Jie smiled grimly as the human fleet began to move. The Vorthok had superior numbers and bigger guns, but they'd never faced Deathworld tactics before. The battle turned chaotic within minutes, as human ships did things the Vorthok had never seen before. Lieutenant Commander Kim, suited up in her combat armor, checking her breach charges one final time. Her boarding team of 20 Marines stood ready in the airlock, magnetic boots clamped to the deck. Remember, these aliens breathe different air, so keep your helmets sealed, Kimei told her squad. We're going in hard and fast. No mercy for anyone firing on civilians. The EU's Soul had already rammed into the side of a Vorthok cruiser, its reinforced bow tearing through alien armor like paper. As the two ships locked together, Kim A's team blasted through the hull breach using shaped charges. The Vorthok crew inside panicked as humans poured through holes in their ship, fighting in zero gravity, like they were born for it. "Contact! Multiple hostiles!" shouted Sergeant Parkai as her rifle spat plasma bolts down a corridor. The aliens were tall, gray-skinned creatures with 4 arms, but they moved clumsily in the artificial gravity their ship provided. Humans had trained for combat in every environment imaginable. Meanwhile, Captain Wu Jie watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The human destroyer Busan had taken critical damage to its engines, but instead of retreating, its captain had turned the dying ship into a guided missile. The vessel slammed into a Vorthok dreadnought at full speed, its nuclear reactor detonating on impact. "Sir, the enemy commander is broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Hanzo, barely containing his laughter. Translation coming through now. The alien voice crackled over the speakers, high-pitched with terror. "They rammed their damaged ships into our vessels. They use debris as weapons. These creatures have no regard for their own survival." Another human ship, the Daegu, had lost its main gun but was now using its damaged hull plating as projectiles, firing chunks of twisted metal at enemy fighters. The improvised ammunition tore through alien ships that weren't designed to handle such unpredictable attacks. Down on the planet's surface, Cathari survivors huddled in underground shelters, watching the battle through their sensors. Elder Kasani couldn't believe what she was seeing. "They fight like demons," she whispered to her aide, "but they fight for us. People they have never met will never know. How is this possible?" The human fleet was outnumbered 3-1, but the Vorthok were learning a hard lesson. Predators who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries had never faced prey that fought back with such desperate, brilliant courage. Admiral Zeekmer stood rigid on the command bridge of his flagship, watching his carefully planned conquest turn into a nightmare. For 300 years, the Vorthok hegemony had swept across the galaxy like an unstoppable plague. They had perfected the art of terror, breaking enemy morale before battles even began. Species would surrender after witnessing just one orbital bombardment, but these humans were different. "Admiral, we've lost 7 cruisers in the last hour," reported his tactical officer, voice shaking. "The humans are using suicide tactics. Their damaged vessels keep ramming our ships." Zeekmer watched in disbelief as another human destroyer, its hull cracked open and atmosphere venting, turned toward his battle group. The ship's captain had evacuated the crew to escape pods, but instead of fleeing, those pods were guiding the empty vessel directly into a Vorthok dreadnought. The collision sent both ships spinning into a nearby moon. "This is impossible," Zeekmer muttered. "No species fights like this. They should be cowering, begging for mercy." But the humans weren't cowering. When one of their ships took critical damage, the crew didn't abandon it. Instead, they stayed at their posts, using their dying vessel as a weapon. When human Marines were wounded in boarding actions, their comrades would fight with even greater fury to protect them. Then something happened that shattered Zeekmer's understanding of warfare completely. A Cathari orbital station was burning, its population trapped inside, while Vorthok fighters strafed the hull. Any sane military force would have written off the civilians as acceptable losses, but the humans didn't think like that. 3 human ships broke formation and flew directly into the crossfire. They positioned themselves between the burning station and the Vorthok fighters, taking devastating damage to their shields. Human rescue shuttles darted through the chaos, pulling families from the wreckage, while their escort ships absorbed punishment that should have destroyed them. "Sir," his aide whispered, staring at the tactical display. "They're not trying to win territory or resources. They're actually trying to save those people. All of them." Sigmar felt something cold crawl up his spine. In centuries of conquest, he had never encountered a species that fought harder for others than for themselves. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and had every reason to retreat. Instead, they threw themselves into impossible situations to protect beings they had never met. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Sigmar felt afraid. The hyperspace distortion signatures lit up sensors across the Zolani system. As Admiral Liho's reinforcement fleet dropped out of FTL-24, fresh human warships emerged from the void, their hulls gleaming with weapon systems that had never been tested in real combat. Captain Wu Jie felt a surge of relief as he recognized the flagship U.S. Incheon leading the formation. "This is Admiral Liho to all human vessels," came the transmission. "Sorry, we're late to the party. Let's finish this." But Liho hadn't come just to reinforce the first battle group. Intelligence reports from the Cathari had revealed the true scope of Vorthok operations. While one fleet terrorized Zolani, 2 other Vorthok battle groups were simultaneously attacking the Morta and Vesan systems, enslaving entire populations. "We're splitting our forces," Liho announced during the emergency command conference. "Captain Kim Soo will take 8 ships to Mortai. Commander Cho Min gets 7 for Vesan. The rest of us finish the job here." The Cathari elder, Kasani, watched the human tactical planning through her translator device. Her ancient eyes had seen many wars, but nothing like this. When the communication link opened, her words shook the human commanders to their core. "In all galactic history, no species has ever intervened without seeking gain," she said slowly. "The strong conquer the weak, or they ignore them. But you ask for nothing. You risk everything for strangers." Lieutenant Commander Hanso looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, we're just doing what's right." "That is exactly what makes you unique," Kasani replied, as human forces began liberating Vorthok prison camps across 3 star systems. Something unexpected started happening. Encrypted messages began flooding human communication networks. The signals came from dozens of different species, all enslaved by the Vorthok for generations. "Admiral, we're receiving technical specifications for Vorthok shield generators," reported Intelligence Officer Major Song Yi. "Also weapons schematics, ship blueprints, even detailed maps of their slave processing facilities. It's coming from prisoners inside their own camps." The revelation hit the human commanders like a thunderbolt. The galaxy was full of species who hated their Vorthok oppressors, but they had never seen anyone successfully fight back before. Now they were secretly providing intelligence, sabotaging equipment, and even staging uprisings to help their unexpected human liberators. The Vorthok war machine, built on fear and technological superiority, couldn't comprehend opponents motivated by pure altruism. They had never faced an enemy that fought harder to protect others than themselves. 3 months after the first battle at Zolani, Admiral Liho's combined fleet hung in orbit around Vorthok Prime like a steel noose. The massive armada included ships from humanity's finest battle groups, reinforced by vessels captured from the enemy, and crewed by liberated species eager for revenge. But revenge wasn't what the humans had in mind. "Admiral, we have target locks on all military installations," reported Fleet Captain Park Dong from the tactical cruiser Gwangju. "Orbital defense platforms, weapons factories, troop staging areas. We can level them in 15 minutes." Liho studied the planet below through the viewport. Vorthok Prime was a fortress world, its surface covered with military bases and weapons, manufacturing facilities, but it was also home to billions of civilians, including millions of enslaved aliens working in forced labor camps. "Negative on orbital bombardment," Liho commanded. "Captain Wu Jie, prepare ground assault teams. Major R.A. Jin, I want evacuation shuttles standing by for prisoner extraction. We do this the hard way." The concept baffled the Vorthok High Command. General Vekvar, leader of planetary defense, couldn't understand why the humans didn't simply Destroy everything from orbit. That's what the Vorthok would have done. That's what every conquering species in galactic history had done. They're demanding our surrender, Vekvar reported to the Hegemony Council, but they refuse to harm civilian targets. They want us to evacuate non-combatants before they attack military sites. Impossible, replied Supreme Commander Vexstar. It must be a trick. No species fights with such ... restraint. But the humans weren't tricking anyone. Captain Wu J led precision strikes against weapon factories while carefully avoiding residential areas. Human Marines stormed prison camps and immediately began medical treatment for malnourished slaves. Major Rajin coordinated evacuation, flights that carried freed prisoners to safety, aboard human hospital ships. The surgical precision of human operations sent shockwaves across the galaxy. On 12 different worlds, enslaved species rose up in coordinated rebellions. The Zalkari broke their chains on the mining world of Kepler 442. The peaceful Mortai attacked their Vorthok overseers with improvised weapons. Even the timid vet, enslaved for 2 centuries, began sabotaging military equipment. Sir, we're receiving reports from across the Empire, reported a terrified Vorthok intelligence officer. Uprising on 17 worlds. Slave populations are revolting everywhere. For the first time in their history, the Vorthok faced an enemy that inspired others simply by existing. The galaxy had learned that freedom was possible, and they wanted it for themselves. 6 months after the fall of Vorthok Prime, the newly constructed council chamber on New Cathari buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 4 different species filled the curved seats, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes that would have amazed any human just a year ago. Now, they all waited to hear what humanity wanted from their victory. Ambassador Yunmi walked to the central podium. Her simple, black diplomatic uniform, a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by other delegates. She had been a literature professor before the war, never imagining she would one day address the leaders of an entire galaxy. Honored representatives, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation devices. 6 months ago, most of you had never heard of humanity. Today, you gather to discuss our place in galactic civilization. The audience leaned forward, expecting demands for territory, tribute, or subservience. That's how galactic politics had always worked. The strong took what they wanted from the weak. We have received numerous offers, Yunmi continued, gesturing to the data tablets stacked beside her. The Zalkari Mining Consortium offers us exclusive rights to 12 star systems. The Mortai Federation proposes a military alliance with them as junior partners. The Vesan Republic wants to name us their protectors in exchange for advanced technology. She paused, letting the weight of those offers sink in. Any one of them would make humanity the dominant power in this region of space. We politely decline all territorial offers, Yunmi announced. Humanity seeks no empire, no subjects, no tribute. We will, however, accept mutual defense pacts with any species committed to protecting the innocent. The chamber erupted in confused whispers. The concept was so alien that many delegates needed multiple translations to understand it. Outside the station, human exploration ships were already launching toward unexplored regions of the galaxy. The EU's Sol and her sister ships carried the same crews who had fought at Zelani, but now their mission was peaceful exploration. Each ship bore a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. We are humanity. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. Captain Wu Jie, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of the Sol as they jumped to hyperspace. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers they had yet to discover, but wherever they went, they would carry the same principles. That had driven them to answer that first desperate call for help. The galaxy had learned that Earth's children were both the most dangerous and most noble species among the stars.